Happy 4th, everyone. Today is the anniversary of the discovery of Higgs boson. Physicists around the world, I believe in 2012, gathered on 4th of July to celebrate this because prior to that, Higgs was a theory, I believe, for about 50 years. Higgs himself was part of that celebration. He had tears in his eyes, etc. So this was a big deal because prior to that, he only talked about this boson, the existence of it, but basically the physicists could not tell whether this was true or not. But at that point, the technology was advanced enough, so in Switzerland at LHC, they were able to actually show that it existed. There are two things I want to say about Higgs boson, although this channel is about neural oscillation, bear with me. For the longest time, I personally had issues understanding what Higgs boson was. I mean, I didn't even quite get it because essentially people who interpreted it, they were saying that basically the theory was that there is something called, it's like a cloud of some sort, and it gives mass to particles. So in particle physics, apparently it's a huge deal that these particles have masses. So me just being, I'm a neuroscientist, but I'm very interested in particle physics as well as the quantum physics. So I would just sort of either read about it or watch talks about it, etc. It didn't click for me though until I heard a talk that Professor Leonard Susskind held at Stanford University. That was the first time I literally got it. The lecture that Professor Leonard Susskind held at Stanford, it's very long. It's about an hour and a half long, and if you don't have patience for it, it's kind of hard to watch. I'll add the link below, but there was one particular thing that he said, and that was the moment that it clicked for me in my own sort of brain, was when he showed as he was using the whiteboard and I was drawing, etc. But there was one specific thing he said that essentially got me jump off of my chair, and I had to write it down. And he used this specific word that basically made that click in my own head. He didn't use this particular explanation until towards the end of the lecture, and he only said it when the first person who asked him a question, he even said that that's a smart question. That is when he articulated it this way, because up until then, if you watch the video, if you watch the lecture, an hour and a half goes by, he still just talks about sort of the basics that you more or less need to know and or think about to even think about at that level of particle physics, about masses, etc. And here's what he responded to the student who was asking about something about that. He said, different oscillations mean different masses. Different oscillations mean different masses. And that is when it clicked. So for you, Higgs boson might have meant different thing, but for me, that was like the aha moment for me, because he was explaining it such towards the end, at least it became clear that it was about oscillations, because at a particle level, particle physics level, at a quantum physics level as well, it's all about oscillation. There's nothing sort of physical and tangible that we have here in this sort of big, clumsy world of ours. But at that level, they're all oscillations. So essentially what Higgs sort of cloud is a bunch of oscillation that changes the oscillations of those particles, and that is what is giving mass to these particles. And they do need to have those masses in order to have those sort of interaction among these particles, etc., at a quantum level. The exciting part of this, if we are to connect it back to what we talk about, neuroscience, but more specifically the oscillation part of the brain, is as if it is a combination of the physical and the non-physical is what matters. That is what it gives birth to all of that. And unfortunately, still in the world of neuroscience, this oscillation part, it's still being seen upon differently. It's not still part of it. And so that is one of the reasons I got very excited about understanding Higgs at that level, because it had to do with oscillations that is the core and essence part of these particles, but we don't necessarily see it. It's just so that's one thing I wanted to say. Another thing I want to say is that there are apparently some other scientists who also introduced and came up with a theory of this boson. Again, now it's called Higgs because apparently his paper was the one that hit where it was sent to, I don't know, at that time 50 years ago, where they used to send their papers to get published. But apparently it was just a technicality, but there were other scientists who had also come up with it. And because the Nobel Prize is not given to more than 3 people, this other paper had already 3 people in it. So it was just a technicality that they did not win the Nobel Prize with Higgs. And so just because of this technicality, Higgs went on and won the Nobel Prize, whereas these other scientists, whose name I actually don't even know, were not able to be part of that Nobel Prize because it was just a technicality. And again, there are 3 of them. So I think it really sucks when I hear those kind of stories. That just, in this case, it was a technicality, but also sometimes it's just a timing. And sometimes also people are just, they just don't give each other credit, which I also think it's extremely unethical. I hate it. I really don't like it when it happens. I don't think this time it was for them not to give, it was not being unethical, it was just a technicality. Anyways, so it was very interesting, and that's I just wanted to share it with you guys today.